Guitar heroes, Eric Andres, your guitar sage here to let you know that, friends, you are playing your scales wrong. What do you mean, Eric? I'm telling you, you're playing your scales wrong. Because of that, you're wasting time, it's hurting your playing, and if you use this one technique that I call the MAP technique, it's one that I use with my students that will help you to understand how to actually practice your scales and actually get a lot more out of it, how to phrase with it, you're going to be a lot better off. So let's get into it. It's a really simple technique, and really more than anything, it's a philosophy. It's an understanding. It's not all about picking up the guitar and just wailing away or trying to wail away. A lot of people do that, and they want to stay away from this type of philosophy thing, but understanding this type of philosophy is truly going to get you to understand why it is that one player can sound great and another player has a hard time sounding great. So now, the number one reason that I'm saying to you that you're practicing your scales wrong, and I don't know if everybody is, but most people, this is how they practice their scales. I know this because I did it for thousands and thousands of hours, but something like this. And so on, and so forth. Now, is that bad to do? No, it's not bad to do at all. Okay, so let me say that first. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to get better at music. We're trying to get better at solos, better at phrasing, better at songwriting, better at riffing, shredding, however you want to call it, okay? And just practicing our scales like this roadway is not going to get us there because we don't play this way. We play like this. You know? So why would we practice scales differently than the way that we actually play on stage or play solos and that sort of thing? Whoa, just blew your mind. You probably just said to yourself, I've never asked myself that question. I know. So this is what we need to do, is we need to understand that the same philosophy, and I'll get to the MAP technique in just a moment. When we're teaching a child how to speak, when a child's learning how to speak, they learn phrases. By the time they're 5 years old, they know like 5,000 words. Wow, they never went to school. How did that happen? Well, it happens through osmosis, right? Through their parents speaking or whoever's rearing them up, raising them. Then they learn these techniques by hearing. We learn phrases, and to hand a child a dictionary at 1 year old and say, there you go, it's all the words you need to know, go, it's not going to be very helpful. They need to learn phrases and what those phrases mean, okay? And we're going to do the same thing. So I call this the MAP technique because what happens a lot of times is if we're playing, let's say we're playing a jam track here, okay? So if I'm playing, let me play a little bit of a jam track here for you, and I'm doing this, say, like an A blues, then I'm going to use the A blues scale. But this is how a lot of people approach their scale playing, and tell me if you think if I take the same approach of scale playing and I use this in my actual playing, if it's going to sound great. So I'm going to practice my scales something like this, right? Right? So now if I take that same technique and I play something like this, I'm changing the feel a little bit, and I'm changing the speed and that sort of thing a little bit, it still really doesn't get the idea across of what we're trying to do, right? Because it's just repetition of notes. It's very predictable. So it's as if we're reading right out of a book. Okay, imagine us going out on a date and we're reading this dating book, right? Well, that wouldn't be very good. This is what you say to the girl. No, they want the heart, right? And we got to come up with that by practicing this the correct way. So I call it the MAP technique because if you have a map, right? like this, in this case here, we have one form of the blues scale. We've got many others, but we're using this one form. Even just that one form, it's basically like we have a map and we're like, we can go anywhere. And we have this map of, say, a state, and we get in the car and we just start going all around like they did back in the day in the cartoons, right? They go all around the map or whatever. And that's not really what we're looking for, right? If we're being a little bit more methodic, we will take a portion of that map and we'll say, okay, let's go to Southwest Florida. What's down there? Miami, the Keys. Cool, let's check out the Keys. Let's start in Key West. We'll work our way up. And there's a bit of a plan as opposed to just kind of taking the map and just meandering everywhere on it. Bad idea. Same thing with music. So we need to think more like a map and say, let's drill down to one little section of that map and get really good at it. Now, we could do this very easily in blues. We could do this very easily with diatonic, 7-note scales, that sort of thing. And it would look something like this. So I took this scale earlier, right? We said... Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take one little section. In fact, I'm going to take... and I'm going to go up one more note. In fact, I'm just going to use those 4 notes. Why? Because the closer we can drill down to that map and we can really take the time to explore one particular place. Let's say you're going to the Alamo. Take your time and explore the Alamo and figure out everything else, everything about it. It will become beautiful. You'll appreciate life more. Okay, same thing with this. We want to appreciate the scale. We want to understand it. Otherwise, you're just going to sit here and get lost, just going crazy all over a scale. It's not going to get you what you're looking for. So watch this. I'm going to take 4 notes. We're going to make it sound way better than using all those notes before. How about that, right? So we just took one little tiny section and we noodled with it. So this is what I call hyper-focusing on a particular part of the neck using the mapping technique. In my courses, I teach this as what's called minimalistic blues. So what we're doing is we're taking one portion of a scale and we're learning it. We're getting to know it because you could do this all day long. You have too many variables. If you take the whole scale, too many variables to really get what you're trying to go after. So what I'm telling you is to condense it down. Now, how can we do this with diatonic scales, scales that other than, say, like pentatonic or blues? Well, what we can do is we can do the same thing. We can learn that part of the neck because there's going to be certain notes that are going to be represented by the chords and certain notes that are going to just be represented by the key you're in that are going to have a different role than the other notes. For some of you, you're scratching your head saying, what the hell's he talking about? Each note has a certain role. It has a certain strength, pull, if you will, in the scheme of a key. And knowing that, at least knowing it from a feel point of view, like when you're playing, is the most important part. In fact, that's all you really need. You could go into some theory regarding that, but really, if you just have that feel for it, you're going to be fine. So one way that I do this is I practice phrases. So not only do I take one part of a scale and I say, well, like for this, I may, let's see, I may say, I would probably just use the blues scale. Maybe I'd throw that note in there, but other than that, I'm just going to use blues scale for this, okay? And I'm going to listen to the chords. The other bit that I could do, say with diatonic scales, like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, is I could practice it like 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5. I could practice what I call sequences. That sort of thing. Or skipping notes. 1, 3, 2, 4. All different ways that you can do this. You can do it going up, you can do it coming down, does not matter. Now, why is that important? Well, because that's more realistic to how you're going to end up playing a solo on stage. It's going to be phrases, it's going to be ideas, it's going to be motifs. A motif is a musical idea. So just like if we said, that's called a pedal, and we got this repeating note. That's a motif, as opposed to just playing through a scale all the time. It's going to get very boring. Now, what are you going to extrapolate from this, Eric? You kind of went on long. Well, I went on long because I really want you to get this, because it's absolutely crucial to your playing, and I want you to be a better player, okay? So sue me for wanting to help you, okay? So here's what I want you to do is when you go to solo on anything, a jam track, whatever, doesn't matter. In fact, I tell you what, I'm going to have a jam track after this. That was, let's see, I did one in the key of A minor. I'll put up the key of B minor in the next one here. And it'll be The Thrill Is Gone. So you can noodle to this using, say, the pentatonic scale or the B minor pentatonic scale or the B minor blues scale. You could use either one of those, and it's going to sound really good. That'll be the track that I'll put on after this is done. But what I want you to do is I want you to take a small section of this scale. Don't take the whole scale. I'm telling you, don't do it. I know it's very tempting to do it, but that's the whole problem, is we don't want to do that. We take one small section of the scale, really concentrate on it, and learn what notes to pull out of it. Now, later on, when you're practicing your scales, there's no problems with practicing the scale from octave to octave like I did, right? Nothing wrong with doing that, but we don't want to get in the habit of doing that all the time, because if so, it becomes very sterile, and then when we go to play, we're just playing scales, and that love doesn't come out like if we were practicing phrases. Make sense? I think it does. Sure. All right, there's going to be a jam track after this, so don't go anywhere. My friends, thank you so much for watching this. Please leave your comments below, like, all that good stuff. Subscribe if you're not a subscriber already. And, of course, I'm on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all those places. I like when people look over here and they're like, look, all the little things floating there. Wow, that's magical. So go there and like that stuff, because I have tons of amazing things for you that are not just here on YouTube. They're there as well. I do live broadcasts typically once a week. I give away thousands of dollars worth of guitars, amps, lessons, goodies, all sorts of stuff, even money. So if you like the guitar, you like to buy stuff, you like amplifiers and all that fun stuff, then join me for one of my live events, YourGuitarSage.com/live, and head over to YourGuitarSage.com if you'd like free ebooks and all sorts of free lessons there as well. Love you, my friends. Thank you so much. As always, be kind to all beings. Practice your guitar. Do the right thing. I'll see you in the next video.